Hello and welcome, my dear friends. It feels so good to be here with you today after nearly 2 months away, and I just want to begin by saying how happy I am to be back with you. In today's watercolor session, I will be sketching 3 small thumbnails. The first is a meadow filled with California poppies. The second is a side view of Pigeon Lighthouse. And the third is a tender memory of my dear sister and me watching the sunset together. As I paint, I will share the art supplies I'm using along the way, along with a few gentle reflections on my painting process. So many things happened over these past few months that it would be hard to talk about them all today. I do, however, find myself thinking deeply about how many people are moving through difficult seasons of life lately. Struggles with health, the realities of aging, loneliness, and the uncertainty that so many families carry, especially in times when work and stability feel so fragile. And perhaps this is a part of what brings me here today, and share this time with all of you, even across great distances. We may be sitting in different homes, in different countries, carrying different circumstances, and yet in some quiet and very real way, we're here together in this moment. So, if you're going through something difficult right now, I hope this space offers you a small moment of rest and the simple joy of making art. I love you all, and let's begin. Dear friends, you just saw me slightly sketch out the scene from the reference photo I showed a few moments ago. Now we're ready to begin adding color. First, I pre-wet my paints to activate them. As I go along, I'll write down all the colors and brushes I'm using today for those of you who would like to follow along. And if you are painting with me, please feel free to reach out to ask any questions. I always love hearing from you, and I'm truly happy to help you in any way I can. Now let's take a moment to review what we have done so far. First, we pre-wet the sky area with water and applied a mix of cerulean blue and cobalt blue light, working wet on wet. You might have noticed I kept the color more saturated near the top of the sky and gently diluted it with water as it approached the horizon line. This is what gives our painting a sense of distance. Without pausing, I brought the brush down the page to lay in a warm underwash across the foreground, This sets a lovely foundation, preparing the paper for the green meadow, the trees, and the California poppies will add a little later. Some of you already know how much I enjoy music. Music is such a comfort to me. It helps me immensely when I'm painting, and it supports me through challenging times. As I mentioned earlier, these past few months have held a real mix of emotions. There was a joy in traveling with my son for spring break, but there has also been a quiet, persistent worry. Some of our loved ones are going through tremendous health challenges right now, and it is hard being separated by such great distances, knowing we cannot directly influence the outcome. And just a few weeks ago, my son and I met a lovely neighbor who lives alone. She had accidentally broken her leg and couldn't move around easily, so we were happy to help her to take out her recycling and garbage bins. But in that moment, the thought of her having that situation all by herself brought a real sense of sadness in my heart. At the same time, I'm so grateful that my 9-year-old was there. It is so important for him to witness how much we need each other and how we can support our neighbors and loved ones when things get hard. And deep down, I hope that voicing these thoughts here might help some of us feel a little less alone. I hope it brings you a bit of comfort or perhaps inspires you to reconnect with someone you love. And if you are in a place where you are able to be there for someone else, to offer a kind word, a listening heart, a small act of presence or generosity, perhaps this can also be a gentle reminder of how much that matters. So often, simply being there for one another is a beautiful and healing thing. Now let's take a moment to review what we had done so far. After laying down the warm wash of yellow, orange and ruby red, I let the paper dry completely. Then on a whim, I added a little bit of masking fluid to preserve some of the bright orange and yellow specks. This will help us suggest the California poppies at the very end. Next, I moved on to loosely painting the background greenery, working wet into wet. You might notice that I like to use Hooker's green as a base, mixing it with different blues and reds to play with temperature. Mixing it this way gives us a nice variety of greens that keeps the eye engaged, and it really helps us feel the light and warmth of that day. Now, let me share a little about the day I found the scene. I am someone who finds a lot of peace in solitude, usually spending quiet time alone or just with my family. But I'm also blessed with friends whom I love with all my heart. My friend Lena, perhaps sensing that I had been keeping to myself a bit too much, invited me out that day. She told me she'll show me a place filled with beautiful greenery, and of course I couldn't resist. I'm so glad I went. That walk led me to this beautiful patch of California poppies, a scene I immediately knew I wanted to paint and share with you. I felt such deep gratitude for Lena that day. It reminded me how vital it is to reconnect with the people we care about. When it feels good to be with someone, it usually means you are exactly where you're supposed to be. It makes me think of the Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, who spoke so beautifully about the concept of interbeing. He taught that nothing exists entirely on its own. Just as these flowers cannot exist without the sun, the soil and the rain, we cannot exist without each other. I wouldn't have even seen this meadow if my friend hadn't gently pulled me out of my solitude. We are all part of the same delicate web. I feel like these little moments are an expression of love, when we simply recognize our shared being. When we feel the deep sense of connection, whether it's a friend sensing we need company, my son and I helping our neighbor, or kind people stepping in to support my distant family when I physically cannot, we are experiencing something profound. In these moments of care, the illusion that we are separate completely dissolves. This web of connection, love and support is truly what keeps us alive and allows us to thrive. Dear friends, if you've been with me for a while, you probably know how much I love the Pigeon Lighthouse. I find it endlessly fascinating, and you might recognize it from a few of my past videos. This time I'm painting a quick glimpse of it from Highway 1. The reference photo isn't perfectly crisp because I snapped it from the passenger seat while my husband was driving. But I fell in love with this scene, not just because of the lighthouse, but because of the quiet mood of this afternoon. It was sunny, but a thin layer of dissipating mist gave the air a soft, hazy quality. I was really drawn to the tree framing the side and the sweep of green grass across the foreground. I actually painted the same view another time using different kind of paper, and the result was completely different from this little thumbnail sketch. Yet, both versions seem to work for me in their own ways. It is exciting to see how our materials and perhaps even our state of mind in the moment shape the way we translate the memory onto the page. Now let's take a moment to look at our progress on this second sketch. I started by applying the blue mix wet into wet, using angled strokes while leaving a few areas of the white paper untouched to suggest clouds. I will say, if I were painting the scene on a larger scale, I would choose cold-pressed cotton paper. It has the right texture to naturally capture the subtle hazy effect of a windy day on the Pacific coast. Even with a bit of fussiness from the paper, I continued pulling the wash down the page, setting up the foundation very much like we did in the first sketch. Once that initial wash was completely dry, I began bringing in more saturated colors to establish the main shapes of the scene. If you are new to watercolor, you might notice that we generally build our paintings from light to dark. Because watercolor is a transparent medium, the white of the paper is actually our only true source of light. You can think of it almost like a stained glass window. The paint simply tints the light shining through from the paper beneath it. Because of this, we have to protect our lightest areas from the very beginning. And it is always easier to gently build up our deeper, darker values at the end than it is to try and rescue the light after a dark wash has been applied. We have to plan for the light, preserve it, and trust that the deep shadows we add at the very end will ultimately help our preserved light shine even brighter. My dear friends, I want to tell you how much I appreciate your presence here today. I know how busy your lives are, yet you chose to spend this time with me, sharing in this quiet act of creation. I know how much I need this moment, time to simply sketch, to lay down our worries, and just be here together. It feels very much like the feeling in this third sketch. This is a small memory of me and my beloved sister Medina sitting together and watching the Pacific sunset. She lived here in California over a decade ago, and I miss her every day. I still think about how wonderful it was to have her near me, sharing quiet, beautiful moments just like this one. I hope to see her again soon, though next time we will likely be watching the sunset over our beloved Lake Issyk-Kul in Kyrgyzstan. As many of you know, most of my family still lives there. As the years pass, my loved ones are growing older, my nieces and nephews are becoming adults and starting families of their own. Even after all this time living in California, I still find myself yearning to be part of the simple life moments, to see them and truly feel their presence. I often dream of my family, spending precious time with them while I sleep, and for those dreams I am deeply grateful. I hope that this summer I will have the strength and good health to finally visit them in person. And if you are longing to reconnect with someone you love, I hope that you are able to do so soon too. When I look at the scenes like this sunset, I am reminded of the absolute beauty of our shared existence. Even when we are separated by oceans and thousands of miles, we are held together by love, by a kind of divine light that connects us in quiet, unexpected ways. Just like the sun casting its glow over the water, that light touches all of us. No matter where we are in the world, we can sit in that same universal light, bask in its beauty, and know that in love we are never truly apart. Mm.